The champagne was still bubbling in her glass when she reached for it. After dancing with him for the third time that night. Third, not first. Not a polite opener. Not an oops, it's just a dance moment. The third time she let that man, Carter, or whatever smug name he had, pull her out to the center of the ballroom while I stood there like a damn coat rack. I didn't say anything when she danced with him the first time. I didn't breathe a word the second. But by the third, I wasn't even angry anymore. Just numb. Hollow. Like my soul had just decided to check out and leave my body behind at that ridiculous black-tie charity event she dragged me to for appearances. What kind of appearances was she even trying to keep up? The ones where she pretended I still mattered? She slid into the seat across from me, cheeks glowing, breath slightly short from the twirls. They played our song, she beamed. Our song. No, they didn't. I would have known. Because when our song plays, I look at her like the world stops. He just looked at her like she was the next checkbox on his evening to-do list. So I leaned forward. Calm. Steady. My voice didn't even shake, though everything inside me was shattering like dropped crystal. If you go back and dance with him again, I said, eyes locked on hers, this conversation won't happen the same way later. She blinked, laughed, and said the worst thing she possibly could have said at that moment. Ben, it's just dancing. You're being dramatic. Dramatic. Right. Because watching your wife slow dance with another man while she bites her lip and pretends not to enjoy it too much is something I should have just shrugged off like an overcooked steak. I didn't respond. Instead, I looked past her to the mirrored wall behind the dance floor. And I saw Carter watching us. Watching me. Like he knew he could. Like he knew she'd let him. I looked back at her, and this cold, unfamiliar thought crept up my spine. She doesn't respect me anymore. She hasn't for a while. And now she doesn't even care if I notice. She raised her glass, oblivious, and took a sip. Then she reached down under the table and tapped away on her phone. She thought I wasn't paying attention. She thought I didn't see whose name she was smiling at on that screen. But I did, and I already knew what I was going to do next. I didn't say anything as she typed under the table. Her manicured nails tapped softly against the screen, like she'd done this 1,000 times, like she wasn't sitting across from the man she vowed to love and honor. And the worst part? She didn't even try to hide it well. She had that smug little half-smile, the one she used to reserve for flirty jokes in private. But now, it was for someone else. Someone whose name I finally caught flashing across her screen. Carter. Not just a dance partner. Not just a donor. Not just some charming guest at the gala. His name popped up with a heart emoji right beside it, in the middle of a message that read, "You smell like vanilla. Can't wait for later." My throat went dry. The room didn't spin, it froze. I felt my heart thud once. Then again. Slower. Louder. I could hear it in my ears, over the jazz band, over the clinking of glasses, over the sound of her laughing softly to herself like a teenager sneaking around after curfew. She hadn't even noticed I was staring at her. She hadn't even looked up. It was like I didn't exist anymore. I excused myself from the table. She gave me a distracted nod, still smiling at her phone. I walked down the hallway to the coat check, not to leave, but to think, to breathe, and to finally open the backup app one had installed 3 weeks earlier. Yeah, I did it. I mirrored her phone to mine. After months of her turning it face down, giggling at late-night messages, guarding it like it was nuclear launch codes, I decided I had a right to know what was going on. And what I saw now confirmed everything I'd tried to deny for too long. There were dozens of messages. Not just flirty texts. Plans. Details. References to past nights. There was even a note saved in her phone titled Cover Stories. A list of excuses she could give me for her absences, each one numbered like a playbook. 1. Girls' night. Use Rachel as backup. 2. Overtime shift. Use extra scrubs from gym bag. 3. Ben's too tired to notice. That one broke me. She knew. She knew I was pulling away. She knew I was hurting. And she counted on it. Counted on me being too worn down, too soft-spoken, too pathetically loyal to do anything about it. She weaponized my love like a shield so she could run around behind it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, reading through betrayal after betrayal like it was a manual on how to break a man silently. Then, her last message came in. From Carter. Can't wait to have you to myself. He looks so clueless, LOL. I snapped the phone shut, walked back to the table. She was gone. I scanned the dance floor. And there she was, already in his arms. already leaning in. For the fourth time. And I knew what I had to do next. I didn't storm the dance floor. That's what the old me would have done. Rash, emotional, begging for scraps of respect in front of strangers. No, I stayed back. I watched. I memorized the way her fingers curled behind his neck, how she rested her head against his chest, how they moved in sync like they'd practiced. She wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't hiding. That's what made it all so chilling. She had already replaced me. Not just physically, not just emotionally, mentally. She had already deleted me from her life and was just waiting for the right moment to tell me. Or maybe never planned to. Maybe she thought I'd just sit there and swallow it, like I always did. But something cracked in me that night. And I don't mean some righteous anger or newfound confidence. No, this wasn't one of those triumphant awakenings. I mean something broke. Something sad. Something final. I looked at her on that floor, dancing like I never existed, and I realized the marriage was already over. The only difference now was, I was done pretending otherwise. I left the ballroom quietly. I didn't take my coat. I didn't even glance at the valet. I walked straight out the back, into the alley where the cold bit into my face, and I pulled out my phone. I called Rachel, Dana's best friend. The one she always used as her alibi. Now, I'm no genius, but I'm not as slow as Dana believed. I'd suspected for weeks that Rachel wasn't in on it, that she didn't actually know Dana was using her name as a cover for her little rendezvous with Carter. And I was right. When Rachel picked up and I told her, just the basics, no accusations, just the truth, there was a long silence on the other end. And then she whispered, "Oh my God, Ben. I didn't know. She told me you two were separating. She said you were seeing someone." My stomach turned so fast I almost dropped the phone. Separating? Me? Seeing someone? I laughed bitterly. "Rachel, I've been trying to get her to come to counseling for 8 months. I feel sick," she said. "She made me lie to you. She told me if I didn't cover for her, she'd, God, Ben, I'm sorry." That's when I told her what I was planning to do. Not revenge. Not some dramatic explosion. Just the truth. In a way she wouldn't be able to laugh off. Rachel agreed to help. 15 minutes later, I walked back into the ballroom. The song had ended. Dana was back at our table, sipping another drink like nothing had happened. She smiled when she saw me. "There you are," she said. "Everything okay?" I sat down across from her. Calm. Collected. I looked her in the eye and said, "You're going to get a text in 10 seconds. When you read it, don't speak. Just look at me and listen." She frowned. Rolled her eyes. "Ben, what are you?" Then her phone buzzed. She opened it. Her face turned white. It was a screenshot. Rachel had sent it, along with a message. "I'm not covering for you anymore." I told him everything. Dana slowly lifted her eyes to meet mine, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't look smug. She looked scared, and I hadn't even started yet. She didn't blink at first, just stared at the screen like it had betrayed her. Her fingers froze around the stem of her glass, and the ice in her eyes, so used to being the one in control, began to thaw into something else. Panic. It spread slowly across her face, starting with her lips tightening into a forced smile, then her brow furrowing, and finally her breathing becoming just a little too uneven to ignore. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I just watched her crumble in real time. And when she opened her mouth to speak, I held up one hand, just enough to make her stop. She obeyed. That's how I knew she was finally starting to understand that this wasn't going to end the way she thought. I'd always been quiet, soft, too forgiving, too eager to fix what was broken. But not tonight. Tonight, she was sitting across from someone she didn't recognize anymore. "You lied to Rachel," I said evenly. "You used her. You used me. And you're still using Carter's ego to cover your tracks." Her mouth opened, then closed again. No words. Just the sound of her breath hitching. "So now you're going to listen," I continued, "because I've done a lot of thinking these past few weeks. While you were busy meeting donors and planning your next excuse, I was planning something else." She shook her head slightly. "Ben, I can explain." I laughed under my breath. "That's what's so insulting. You really believe I'd still want an explanation after all of this?" She went quiet again. All that confidence, all that flirtatious arrogance she used to weaponize against me, it vanished. And in its place was something unfamiliar. Regret? Shame? I couldn't tell. But I knew it didn't matter anymore. Because I wasn't there for an apology. I wasn't hoping for closure. I wasn't even angry. I was resolved. "I canceled the trip," I said calmly. She blinked again. What trip? The anniversary trip. The one I booked 4 months ago, before I realized I was sleeping next to a stranger every night. The non-refundable one. Don't worry. I already sent the itinerary to your mother. She's going with her best friend now. Dana's eyes widened. You told my mom? I nodded. And your brother? And yes, Rachel. And no, I didn't go into graphic detail. I didn't need to. I just told them the truth, that I was stepping away from the marriage before it turned me into someone bitter and pathetic. Ben, her voice cracked. I also sent Carter a message. She froze. I leaned forward slightly. Don't worry. I didn't threaten him. I didn't expose screenshots or beg him to back off. I just asked him a simple question. I said, now that she's all yours, are you still interested? She turned pale, and he read it. I added, but didn't reply. She reached across the table, almost instinctively, like touching my hand would reset everything. But I pulled it back before she could. I've arranged a hotel for the night. I'll be gone before sunrise. Don't worry, I left you the house. I'm not interested in it anymore. I'll be sending over the separation paperwork by the end of the week. Now her tears came. Real ones. No mascara theatrics. Just pure, unfiltered desperation. But I didn't flinch. You laughed when I said I noticed. I said, standing slowly. Well, you're not laughing now. And I walked out. No scene. No yelling. Just silence. The kind that echoes louder than anything she ever expected. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. The hotel bed was too clean, too quiet. I lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to process the sound of my own footsteps leaving her behind. Not just leaving the gala. Leaving everything. The years. The routines. The 1,000 little moments I thought meant something. I had walked out like I was slipping out of a burning house, relieved, but still coughing on the smoke. By morning, my phone was lit up with messages. The first dozen were from her. Mostly variations of "Can we talk?" and "Ben, please, call me." One was just a photo of our wedding rings, side by side on the bathroom counter. I didn't respond. I had nothing left to give her, not even a reaction. But then came the text from Carter. Yes, Carter. Apparently, Dana hadn't taken the quiet route I did. From what I could gather, she had called him in some fit of desperation, probably trying to save face or figure out whether her affair had a future now that her husband had stepped aside. But Carter wasn't playing along. He sent me a message that simply said, I didn't know she was still living with you. This is messed up. I'm not part of this. I sat up when I read that one. Then he followed it up with, she said you two were over. She lied. I'm out. Sorry, man. So he bailed. Just like that. She bet her entire marriage on a man who couldn't handle the heat of actual consequences. I wasn't surprised, but I did feel something. Not satisfaction, not revenge, just confirmation. That I had never been the fool she thought I was. I had just been too loyal to believe someone could look me in the eye and lie like that. That afternoon, I got an email from the smart home system, one of those notifications about door activity. Apparently, Dana had gone back to the house in the early morning hours. But what caught my attention wasn't the time. It was what triggered the second alert an hour later. She opened the office drawer. I had left her something in there. Just one thing. A printed letter in an envelope, labeled in thick red ink, for when you realize it's all gone. Inside, there was no hate, no venom, just the truth. I wrote everything I had never dared say aloud while I was still pretending our marriage could be saved. I reminded her of every night I waited up, wondering if I was imagining the distance. Of every time I found her smiling at a screen and lying about who it was. Of how it felt to kiss her and know she was somewhere else in her mind. I told her I forgave her, not because she deserved it, but because I refused to carry her weight anymore. And at the bottom, I wrote, if you ever want to know how it feels to be truly invisible, rewatch the security footage from the night of the gala. Watch yourself dance. Watch how you never once looked at the man you came with. That's when I knew you were already gone. No threats. No warnings. Just reality, printed in black and white. She hasn't contacted me since that day. But Rachel did. And what she told me next changed everything I thought I knew about how deep this betrayal really went. When I saw Rachel's name pop up on my phone again, I almost ignored it. I was drained, mentally, emotionally, whatever else people say when they've been gutted and are still pretending to function. But something told me to answer. And when I picked up, she didn't waste time with small talk. She just said, Ben. I didn't know how bad it really was until I saw the photos. I sat up instantly. What photos? There was a pause, like she was trying to decide how far to go. Dana didn't just lie about where she was staying, Ben. She didn't just use me as cover. She's been using someone else too. Someone closer than you'd believe. I felt my pulse spike. Who? And then Rachel said the one name that made my stomach bottom out. Her cousin's husband. Peter. I went silent. I knew Peter. We'd gone on vacation with Peter. Shared dinner tables. He helped me replace the garbage disposal 2 years ago when Dana was working late. The betrayal hit me like a sucker punch. Not because I hadn't considered she might be lying again, but because it confirmed what I'd tried so hard to disbelieve. She hadn't just crossed a line. She had built her whole second life on the other side of it. She was meeting up with Carter to make you think he was the issue, Rachel went on, her voice shaking. But Carter was the decoy. The Real affair, the real one, was with Peter. For almost a year. I gripped the edge of the hotel desk until my knuckles turned white. I'd spent months thinking I was paranoid. I'd watched her pull away and convinced myself I was the one losing touch. But she had been playing chess while I was still trying to find the board. Rachel then said something that chilled me to the bone. Dana used Carter because she thought you'd confront him first. She needed a distraction in case you ever started putting things together. She called it smoke cover. Her words. She actually joked about it. I leaned back, stunned. She hadn't just lied. She engineered it. This wasn't a lapse in judgment. This was strategic, premeditated, cold. She told Peter that you'd never find out, Rachel added. That even if you did, you were too soft to ever leave. And Ben, her voice cracked. I didn't say anything sooner because I honestly didn't know until last week. But now that you've walked away, I thought you deserved to know the whole truth. I thanked her, quietly, automatically. But my mind wasn't really in the conversation anymore. It was rewinding, replaying every family barbecue, every group dinner, every fake smile Dana threw at me across the table while Peter sat 3 feet away. It all lined up now. Every absence, every shift in her tone, every deflection when I asked if something was going on. But now I knew. And now there was no pretending. I hung up the phone and stared at the wall for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and started writing my last letter to Dana. Not for her to read now. For her to find when I'm already gone. Gone in a way she never expected. I didn't rush to send the letter. I waited until I had everything else in place. The storage unit cleared out, my name removed from the joint accounts, the lease signed for a new place across town. I even changed my emergency contact at work. You don't realize how many pieces your name is tied to until you start cutting yourself loose from someone. I wanted a clean exit. No arguments. No apologies. Just silence. The kind that can't be manipulated. The second letter wasn't emotional. I wrote it as a man who had nothing left to beg for. Just facts, lined up like dominoes she thought would never fall. I printed out the photos Rachel forwarded, time-stamped, geotagged. Dana with Peter. Dana at restaurants she claimed were mandatory work events. Dana kissing him on a street corner in a part of the city she once swore she hated driving through. All of it, compiled, sealed, and placed in the piano bench she never opened unless she was showing off. I timed the delivery to land at the house 2 days after I left. That's when she'd be calm enough to think I might be coming back. It's when the silence would start gnawing at her. That's when she'd start looking for signs, breadcrumbs. But I didn't leave crumbs. I left closure. She found the envelope at 8:46 p.m. I know because I got an alert from the Smart Lock app. She unlocked the piano bench, then stood there for 11 minutes. Just standing, probably holding the envelope, probably already guessing what it was. And then she opened it. Inside, I had written this. You once told me I was too quiet, that I needed to speak up more if something was bothering me. You said it like a joke, but I think you meant it. So here I am, speaking, not yelling, not accusing, just stating what I know. I know Carter was the distraction. I know Peter was the real betrayal. I know Rachel didn't cover for you willingly. I know your cousin doesn't know yet, but she will. I didn't tell her. I won't. You'll have to. Or you won't. That's on you now. I'm not coming back. Not because of Peter. Not because of the lies. But because I can't even remember the last time you looked at me without calculation in your eyes. You can keep the house. You can keep the memories. But you don't get to keep me in your orbit anymore. I'm done spinning around you. That was it. No name at the bottom. No signature. Just the truth. Delivered like a final invoice for everything she thought she'd gotten away with. The next alert I got from the smart system came 40 minutes later. She slammed the front door so hard the frame sensor disconnected. Then my phone rang. 4 times. I didn't answer. She texted once. You planned this the whole time. Who are you? And I didn't reply. Because I wasn't her husband anymore. Not the one she left behind in pieces. Not the one she thought she could shame into silence. I was already building a life that had nothing to do with her. But what I didn't expect was who helped me finish that letter. The one person she never thought would turn on her. It was raining when I met Rachel at the little diner near the edge of town. The kind with chipped mugs and a jukebox that never worked right. She'd picked the place. Said she didn't want anything too clean for this conversation. I got it. Nothing about any of this felt neat or simple anymore. She was already there when I walked in. Hood up, eyes puffy, but steady. She looked at me like someone who had carried the weight of someone else's secrets for too long. And when I sat down across from her, she didn't wait for pleasantries. She's spiraling, Rachel said. Texted me 23 times last night. Blaming me, blaming you, blaming Carter, blaming everyone except the person in the mirror. I stirred my coffee and stared at the steam. She always needed someone else to be the villain. Rachel nodded slowly, but she finally ran out of people to blame. We sat in silence for a while. Two people who'd spent years orbiting the same hurricane, finally stepping out into the quiet after the storm. Then she said something I'll never forget. You weren't crazy, Ben. You were right to feel everything. You just didn't have someone in your corner. Until now. She slid a small envelope across the table. Inside were printed screenshots. Messages Dana had sent Rachel over the past 6 months. Some were smug. Some were cruel. One called me emotionally small. Another joked that he'll never leave, he has no spine. Rachel had kept them all. Not out of malice. Out of guilt. She said she thought I should have them. Not to hurt me, but to remind me that I wasn't paranoid. That I was always right to notice when something felt off. That the man Dana called weak was the only one in the entire mess who acted with dignity. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just nodded. And for the first time in what felt like years, I felt free. The divorce went through quietly. She didn't contest. I think she knew she wouldn't like what would come out if she tried. I didn't take the house. I didn't ask for anything but my name and my peace. She kept her things. I kept my integrity. But the best part? 2 months later, I was invited to speak at a nonprofit event about mental health and marriage. Because I'd written an anonymous post online that went viral about emotional invisibility and finding your voice. They didn't know it was me when they reached out. But I said yes. Rachel came to that event. And when I looked out into the audience and saw her smiling from the 3rd row, I felt something warm settle in my chest. Not romance. Not yet. Just connection. Respect. Something real. Something that couldn't be faked or manipulated. Afterward, we grabbed coffee. And when we talked about everything that had happened, she said something soft but certain. You were never spineless. You just loved someone who didn't know what to do with a good man. Now, months later, I wake up in my new place. It's smaller, quieter, but I feel whole again. I'm rebuilding on my terms. And Rachel? She's still around. We take things slow. We talk often. There's no pretending. No games. Just two people who survived the same storm and found something solid to stand on after. And Dana? She saw us together once, by accident, at a bookstore. She didn't say a word. Just stood there, frozen, before walking out without buying anything. That was the last time I saw her. She once told me I was too quiet. Now, I live a life that speaks volumes without needing to say a single word.